This is my time. I'm on the rise. Can't hold me down, I'm too fly. This is my time. Ready to shine, brighter than all of the lights. Cause when it's game time, seconds away and the game's on the line. There ain't no doubt in my mind. Beating the buzzer like, this is my time. This is my moment. You better bet that I'm on it. Ready and set, I'm
Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Be Stellar podcast. I'm your host, Stella Atwood. This is mom producer Meredith Atwood. And on today's episode, we have author, endurance expert, and coach Matt Fitzgerald. Yay! So, you were on not my podcast, you were on my mom's podcast a couple years back.
Yep.
And now it's funny because you're on my podcast.
Yep.
So, little deja vu moment there.
Yeah, time marches on.
It sure does.
So I know we're here to talk about your new book today, but before we do that, would you mind introducing yourself to my audience? As you may know, I am a teen CrossFit Games athlete, and CrossFit has a lot of running in it.
So I grew up, I'm talking to you now from Flagstaff, Arizona, where I live and operate like a year-round training camp for runners called Dream Run Camp. But I grew up in New Hampshire, got into running when I was young. I was one of those kids who just stunk at every sport except running, and really enjoyed it. And I didn't really expect to become a running journalist or endurance sports journalist, but I did want to be a writer, and I had this other passion for running, and that's just the way it worked out. And so I worked for magazines like Triathlete Magazine, websites like active.com, and then kind of struck out on my own and have written a lot of books for mostly for endurance athletes. Some are go a little bit more broad than that. And then my most recent adventure is this Dream Run Camp here in Flagstaff.
Yeah. So would you mind sharing a story from your teens about racing, or maybe a memorable moment from competition at the time? Like, what stands out? What did you learn?
Yes, good one. I remember one race. It was the state championship race in high school when I was still back in New Hampshire, and the fastest kid was way ahead of everyone else, and he won. And I was battling for second place with this rival. He and I were both underclassmen. We were both, no, that's not true. We were seniors. No, we were juniors. And we were just sprinting down it was a 3.1 mile race. And it came down to like the last 100 meters. The winner had already won, and me and this guy, Todd, were fighting for second place. And we were neck and neck. It was going to be him or me. And I had this moment where I just kind of quit. Mentally, I didn't stop or I didn't slow down, but I just kind of let him have it. I could feel it happening. It was almost like I just hit this wall where he wasn't necessarily faster or fitter than I was. He just seemed to want it more than I did, and I brooded on that afterwards. I didn't like losing for that reason, but it was an important moment for me. I mean, I think every athlete kind of has these moments when they don't quite live up to their own mark. And for me, I learned something about myself then, like that I had some work to do, to be as tough as the toughest runners, but that I didn't want to just be okay with, because third place in the state championship isn't bad, right? But I learned that about myself, that I wasn't okay falling. I didn't need to win, but I did need to reach my full potential, and I hadn't done that. So. Kind of a bittersweet memory. I mean, it was a good race overall, but there's a reason I chose that story.
And isn't that the intro to How Bad Do You Want It?
Mm-hmm.
Your book? Yeah, I thought so. Yeah.
Yep.
Stella, did you read that, or James read it? I got another kid. He's a runner. We should have probably invited James to this episode, honestly.
We should have. He's a cross-country runner and track runner, and somehow he got those genes. He got those genes. Because I'm not a great runner. Like, I've been working a lot on it, but don't got those genes. I've got the lifting genes. Like, I've got the big legs, and my ground contact time is just long. Like, everything needs to be fixed with my running. But so he got all the genes is basically what I'm saying. And there's a lot to work on. So with that being said, like, what is some advice you would give people for running who aren't good at it and are trying to get a little bit better?
One thing is stop saying you're not good at it.
Step
I
one.
mean, well, it can be a little bit self-limiting. I mean, we all do this. Like we do at Dream Run Camp, we go out for coached group strength workouts at like local gyms twice a week. Like whenever I get like a balance exercise, like I have this chatter in my head, like, well, I have a very high center of gravity. I'm very narrow, and like balance doesn't come easily for me. I'm not built for it. And the coach doesn't like any of that talk. He's like, you're just limiting yourself. Like, but there's truth to that. I mean, there's such a thing as like, kind of having a body type that is conducive to a certain type of sport. However, there's so many examples of athletes who don't look like, the prototype for their sport, who do very well, even when they didn't do well initially. So that's the thing. Like, where you are now. You have no idea where how much you could improve, and that's the thing to focus on. Like, you truly don't. Like anyone who says, "Oh, like your potential is limited because of X, Y, Z," anyone who says that is either lying to you or lying to themselves. Like you don't know. So that's the thing to focus on. Um, just like your ultimate potential in running remains to be seen, and then the rest is just, it sounds like you're doing the right things. Like because like a lot of us, especially in hybrid types of sports, you can play to your strengths and you can avoid your weaknesses, and like that is not a path to reaching your full potential. So you're right to invest extra time in it. Yeah, I would just like give yourself some grace. Like, it may take you more time to get to your full potential than it might take like a natural born, like your brother.
That guy.
Yeah. And just like, yeah, but just like be open to the possibility that you can improve a lot, because those stories do exist. And then, yeah, put the work in and make smart use of the time you do put into, like, don't waste your time on inefficient methods, just, kind of like do monkey see, monkey do with the fastest runners. Like, how did they get so good, and do some of that.
Stella, you should tell Matt about your improvement though, because I feel like you cut yourself short. Like tell him like a year and a half ago when you did your first basic 5K at that competition, and then the year later, like pat yourself on the back a little bit here.
Okay. So like in 2023, I went to a CrossFit competition, and the first event was a 5K, and it was hilly, it was long, and I knew I was going to get last on it just because there was 10 girls, and I was like, I might even get last in all the divisions because everybody's fast. So it starts with like a mass start, which is terrifying because there's large dudes trying to trample me and I'm scared. So I don't go out hot because that's a horrible idea in a race. And then I can't hear anybody in the woods because everybody left me. And then fast forward to September of last year, the first run, like the first event.
Qualified for the CrossFit Games.
Yeah, that. The first event was a run, and this time it was a mass start of 30 girls, so not all the divisions. And this time I was like, okay, start up front because you got to push yourself to start up front. So I get up front and I send it. And then I'm fine. And then I did not get last. So there's that. I did not get last at all. I got 21st on that event, which is huge because I went from getting dead last in all the divisions to not getting last.
Yeah. You worked hard that year. So she's working on it. I did.
Yeah.
Growth mindset there.
That's right. That's right.
Yeah. Okay. So fun question time. What is your favorite candy or junk food? And do you ever eat junk food?
Yeah, one of my go-tos is the Reese's Fast Break bar. I do. I'm a sucker for any like peanut butter chocolate combination. So yeah, if I'm in a period of heavier training when dinner just doesn't cut it, and I'll have like a dessert or like an evening snack of one of those Reese's Fast Break bars. And yeah, absolutely. I think like a healthy diet obviously has a lot of benefits for athletes, but you shouldn't, I don't think anyone should try to eat perfectly. Because like you have to have a healthy relationship with food in addition to eating healthy food. So people who actually, I think, who get the most out of their diet over a long period of time as athletes are the ones who do make an allowance for junk, as you call it. But it's just feeds the soul.
Yeah. Like I love candy, and when I'm training for the CrossFit Games, like, I treat myself with Sour Patch Kids
Yep.
often.
Right on.
Often. Good fuel, right? Good carbies.
Yeah, it's good. So let's talk about your new book. The intro to your book has this line, and maybe we can start here. Some athletes are destined for mastery, while others, frankly, just don't have what it takes to fulfill their own potential. That's because most of what it takes to fulfill potential lies within a person. What inspired you to write about this particular topic?
I like that question. So for me, I started running when I was 11 years old, and I liked it. And like I said, it was the only sport I didn't stink at. But I really knew by the time I was 14, 15 that I wasn't going to the Olympics. And I was one of the best runners in my tiny little state. Um, but for me, like that wasn't really a disappointment. Just having a sense of the limits of my potential, I still was hungry just to see where I could go and what my potential was. And it led to just a really cool journey. I mean, fast forward many, many years. In 2017, I was 46, still running, and I talked the coach of a professional running team here in Flagstaff into just letting me run with his team, train with his team for the summer. I was a middle-aged amateur runner, had no business on this team, but I just went all in for their lifestyle, doing everything they did. And I got so much out of it. I ran my fastest marathon ever, like at that age, which was just felt like a fantastic accomplishment. And I want, as a coach and as the host of Dream Run Camp, like I want other athletes to give themselves the same permission I gave myself. Like you don't have to be a genetic lottery winner to just see how far you can go, like what your potential is. And so that's what I do as a coach. And the book I've written is really sort of that. It lays out what the developmental journey looks like, from first steps to just being the best you can be at your sport. But it's also kind of a permission structure for athletes. It's like, hey, listen, if you love your sport and you want to improve, like you deserve a ticket to the ride. Like you shouldn't
I like that.
you shouldn't disqualify yourself because you're young or you're old or you don't think you have the right genes or whatever. Like if you want it in your heart, like you should just take a ride.
Oh, I love that. But I don't think we got the title of the book.
Hold on. Is it Chasing Mastery?
Yeah,
Yes.
just shoehorn that in there. Yeah,
we gotta add that. We gotta add
The
the
book
title
is
to
called
the book.
Chasing Mastery.
There you go.
Yeah.
But with what you said, I like agree with that a lot because I love CrossFit and I've loved it since I was 8. And I say it a lot, like if you really do love a sport, it will take you far.
Mhm.
And I feel like you do genuinely have to love it to go far in it.
Yep.
Because you can't spend hours in the gym doing something you don't like.
Yep.
You will
Yeah.
get burnt out and you won't want to do it.
Yes.
So
And how does that,
100%.
to piggyback on that, Stella, Matt, how does love, and I think what you call in the book hard fun, like how does that tie in to the concept of mastery?
Yeah, I mean, it really is foundational. So like, I lay out a 5-stage, developmental process in the book, and stage 1 is the motivational stage. And that is where like you fall in love with the sport. And it's exactly, Stella, I think you hit the nail on the head where it's a long process and it's a lot of work to see like ultimately, when you do like the best thing you ever do as an athlete, that's not after 1 week, that's not after 1 year even. So you have to invest so much of yourself into the sport in order to see how far it can take you. And that is simply not going to happen if discipline won't do it. Discipline helps like when your heart's not in it, but you have to. But if your heart's into it, if your heart's in it and there's nowhere you would rather be most of the time, than working to improve, then all the rest, the things that people tend to focus on more, like the methods and the tools and the systems and all that stuff, like all that will come naturally, if you're just like on fire, to improve in your sport. All those other stages are important, but they come afterward. And I don't coach youth sports, but I remember being a youth athlete, and I know people who coach youth sports, and the good ones will always say like that my number one job is instilling a love for the game in these athletes. Like all the rest can come after that.
Yeah. So your book is divided into 25 lessons in 5 pillars. Is there one or two lessons or pillars that you feel apply especially to young athletes?
Meredith, you mentioned the hard fun.
Yeah.
Yeah, I like that one a lot. My approach as a coach, I mean, I do have, a lot of knowledge about the technical aspects of running and also triathlon, I would say. But I am kind of like a big picture, like holistic type of person. And sometimes I like to have athletes zoom out rather than zoom in to the details. And so that phrase "hard fun" is one that we use a lot here at Dream Run Camp. It's the idea that if you are an athlete who's pursuing excellence in your sport, like you want to know that what you're doing is working, right? Like that's just like you want to know you're not wasting your time. You know for sure you're putting a lot of time and effort into your sport, and you want to make sure that that's not wasted, like that you're not going about it inefficiently. And so you need some kind of feedback from what you're doing to know that you're on track, because that keeps you motivated, right? Like if you're just working hard and you have no evidence that you're getting anywhere, it's hard to sustain motivation that way. And so when runners or athletes are looking for evidence that what they're doing is working, they'll tend to look at the numbers, measurements and stuff, whether it's tests in training or going to a lab, or sometimes competition can provide that proof. I like the qualitative test that I call the hard fun test, which is just ask yourself, like on a scale of 1 to 5, like how hard is my training right now? Like, does it feel like too easy, or way too easy, a little too easy, kind of in the middle, hard, very very like around my limit, or am I overwhelmed? Like, is it kind of too hard? And then do the same thing, like ask yourself, like how much fun am I having in the process right now, and just kind of rate it. And what you want is to be 5 out of 5 for both hard and fun. So, you want your training to be as hard as it is fun, and as fun as it is hard. There is such a thing as too hard. There's no such thing as too much fun. But most competitive athletes, I mean, anyone who goes to CrossFit games, they don't mind working hard. You're happy to work hard, but there is absolutely such a thing as too hard. How do you know? Well, it stops being fun. And interesting, like research on like overtraining syndrome, where athletes just kind of burn themselves out through hard work. The canary in the coal mine, like the first and most reliable indicator that you're training too hard, is a decrease in motivation. Like like your fun level goes down before there's anything in your blood that you can measure that says something's wrong. There's that psychological, the want to starts to diminish. And the nice thing about the hard fun test is like if you do like physiological testing, you can't do that every day. And even the numbers you get from your devices, like, yeah, it says my VO2 max went up today. Like, did it really?
Right.
That's not how it works. But the hard fun test, it just like, it's qualitative and it doesn't seem terribly scientific, but actually if you look at the science, it's there, athletes' subjective perceptions of how hard their training is are highly predictive of outcomes. So it's like that kind of like Goldilocks zone where like It doesn't feel easy. It doesn't feel overwhelming. It feels like appropriately hard. And at the same time, like as a performance focused athlete, you're not having fun unless you're training progressively. So like how much fun you're having tells you a lot about how the training is going. Like, measurements aside, if you're just having, disappointing workouts 3 days out of every 5, that's not fun. So like, yeah, those just subjective, like, just looking inside yourself and asking and answering those questions are a great way. I'm not saying like, I'm not dismissing the measurements and the objective stuff, but that's a good way to just kind of like zoom out to a broader perspective and keep yourself on track.
I have never actually heard it approached like that. That is absolutely brilliant. Stella, does that like hit you across the head?
Yeah, because like right now I feel like hard is at like a 3.8, and then like fun is at, I feel like fun's always at a 4 or 5.
Yeah.
It really depends on the day, but it never goes
Last
below
week
4.
you were not on the fun meter. Are you kidding me?
Look, I think I always have fun, but I was more on like a disappointed meter. I don't know if there's one of those, but it was like it was like a 5 on the disappointed because I had a bad workout, but it doesn't mean I didn't want to be at the gym. I just had a bad workout and I was disappointed.
Got it.
Yeah.
Fair.
Yeah. There's such a thing as like believing in the process, even though you like some days you just want to flush down the toilet and forget ever happened.
Yeah.
Yeah. One of the lessons that you mentioned is restraint. And I imagine that kind of goes very closely with what you just talked about, like in the context of young athletes, especially, and in those who don't have maybe an individual coach. I think this would be a good little topic to touch on. What does restraint look like? How important is it? How is it tied into listening to your body and that kind of thing?
Yeah. Great question. Because I mean, I think everyone who does, CrossFit, understands the importance of, toughness or grit or resilience or whatever you want to call it. Just being able to embrace the suck, very, very important as an athlete. The thing is, we all know that. Like, if anything, like toughness is a little bit overhyped. And for me as a coach, what I see all the time is that like there is something else that's just as important that doesn't get nearly as much attention. And like that is restraint. Because like if you're highly motivated and that's all you've got, that's the only card you have to play, you're just going to go over a cliff, right? Like you just work hard until it blows up. Like you need gas and brake, or maybe more like steering is a better word. And because there's not, I guess, restraint really isn't as sexy as toughness is. It tends to be overlooked and undervalued. And so in my experience, like that's where a lot of athletes have more work to do. And it's where you can have a serious advantage. If you look at, the top levels of CrossFit or running or any of this family of sports, you look at the top performers and they are holding themselves back, like much more than the athletes like 1 and 2 levels below them. That's really kind of the difference. They're not necessarily tougher. They're the ones like making those hard judgment calls. Like, you know what, this isn't my day. I'm going to bail on this session, or I'm going to modify the session, or like my body's saying I need a break. I don't really want to take a break, but I know it's a smart thing. Like those smart decisions where you're actually holding yourself back, they have this compounding effect where you're simply just getting more out of the overall process, because you're only pushing when it's right to push, and you're not just pushing because it's on your schedule and your body's saying it's not the right time to push. So yeah, being as smart as you are tough, and one of the top ways that smartness or good judgment is expressed is in restraint, holding yourself back.
We really should have had James on this podcast, Stella. What were we thinking? He is such a stubborn, not to call him out,
so
stubborn. And like we keep it like, James, you have to rest. You have to recover. Like, cross country, they run. And it's like, it's okay to not run today. If, restraint, recover, your body needs to rest. So yeah, we will give him the replay.
Yeah. Like I look forward to my rest days because I know I'll be really good the day after.
Yep.
Like I rest on Thursdays and I'm like, okay, well today's Thursday. So tomorrow, like my training session will be really good because I rested. And then
Yeah.
Mondays are great because
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm fully rested. Like it's a time to kind of restart your body for the next training day. So
Yes.
for
Yeah.
teens out there, just rest. It's better.
It's better.
Take your
The
rest
rot
days.
life. That's what you call it, right? Rotting.
Yeah.
Laying
I
in
lay
the
in my
bed
bed.
rotting.
Lay in my bed and reset my body for the next day. It works. So I'm
Do you
gonna
want me
read.
to read that quote? Can you see it? Did it
I
print out?
can. I have
Okay.
it on my paper.
Okay.
So the true key to sport mastery, I believe, is not training per se, but self-regulation, which is a fancy term for the capacity to control one's emotions, thoughts, and actions in the pursuit of one's goal. So kind of talk about self-regulation.
Yep. Yeah, it's a bit of a mouthful. It's a term that is used in sciences that have nothing to do with CrossFit and endurance sports. Self-regulation is what all living organisms do in order to, kind of live and thrive. So, it's so you have goals, and then there's a process of pursuing goals, and self-regulation is what you have to do in order to get from point A to point B. So just think of it like, forget about the training, but just put it in the context of a competition where you're deciding, like, making the decision, I need to put myself up front on at the start of the run, um, even though it's not my strength, because I need to sort of, like, get kind of pulled along by the strongest runners and minimize my disadvantage here so that I'm better positioned to take advantage of my strengths later on in the competition. That is self-regulation. When you get, deep into the competition and it's really starting to hurt, and it's not a matter of like pacing yourself, it's just a matter of like staying focused, and you might have like negative chatter like bubbling up in your head, like, oh, this is so hard, why do I do this to myself, like I'm doomed, whatever it is. And then
I'm doomed.
there's maybe that's just me.
Destruction, doom.
And then there's another part of you, that the one that, like, no, I want to be here and I want to do the best I can, that kind of like shouts down the part that wants to just quit or take it easy. That is also self-regulation. And so, like, just like from moment to moment to moment, there are situations where what you do next is not decided. What you do next is not automatic. You could have 20 athletes in exactly the same situation, and they might do 20 different things in that moment. So self-regulation is what allows you to make the best choice, whether it's self-regulating your actions, speed up, slow down, hold steady, whatever. Your thoughts. I mean, you can't control every thought you have, but once a thought pops into your head, you do control what happens next, like what you do with that thought. If the devil on your left shoulder says you're doomed, the angel on your right shoulder can say, no, I've actually been here before and it turned out fine.
There was no such doom.
Right.
Yeah.
Yes. And then emotions too. Again, like, you can't control the emotions you have, but you do have a good deal of control over, like, what you do with the emotions that you experience. Like, like an anxiety would be a common one. Like, you're super anxious before a race, and you kind of can't help feeling that, but it's unpleasant and it doesn't really help your performance. In fact, it harms it. So, you can learn self-regulatory skills that help you, like, work with your anxiety so that it doesn't hinder your performance and also just spoil your good time.
Spoil your good time. Yeah.
Yeah.
So last question. Is there anything you wish you could tell 16-year-old Matt?
There is a lot. A lot. Yeah, because, like, really, this has driven me ever since then, because I feel like I failed to live up to my potential as a young athlete. And so there's a lot of regret, actually, that I carry with me. And Yeah, I think the number one thing, if I could only say one thing to 16 year old Matt is, my limiter really was the toughness piece. Like, when I had that moment when Todd Guile and I were running neck and neck, down the home stretch at the state championship, I just wasn't as tough as my peers. And what I didn't realize then was that it was changeable. But that it wasn't going to be easy or instantaneous. But I would sit down with that kid and say, hey, listen, stick with this and give yourself some grace. This is where you are now. Don't run a 95% effort in the next race and then spend a week beating yourself up, because you're a 95% athlete right now. Like, that is just where you are. You're not satisfied, but like that last 5% you're reaching for is not going to come from beating yourself up or wanting it to happen instantaneously. You love this sport, so just stick with it. Kind of like just sort of accept where you are now as where you are now, and believe that if you stick with it, that change is possible. Because I did learn when I got back into running as an adult that change was possible.
I love that. That's so good.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, Matt, tell us where we can get your book, when it's coming out, all that stuff. Give us the pitch.
Yes. So Chasing Mastery. So interestingly, it's published by 80/20 Publishing, which I own or co-own. So I'm the author and the publisher of the book.
Nice.
So we're very small. We just put out a handful of books each year, not all mine. But we are plugged in with Simon & Schuster, like the big giant book publishing company. So thanks to them, our books are available wherever you would normally get a book. I will say that the audio edition won't be released. So the release date officially is March 25th. But the audio edition will not be available right away, but it's coming pretty soon.
Well, thank you so much, Matt. This was great.
Yes, I really enjoyed this. Thank you.
King of the jungle, heart of a lion. 4, 3, 2, 1. Watch out, here I come. This is my time.